5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the GHT Overland Podcast. This is where you get the greatest interviews and insights from overland travelers around the globe, learning from their stories and experiences as we interview overlanders from places like Australia, Africa, the Americas, Pakistan, and the UK. You will learn the basics to the advanced in overlanding, so buckle up and get ready for a new adventure. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. Today's featured guests are Emily and Aaron, known as the Two Dusty Travelers. A nurse and a teacher by profession, Emily and Aaron are insatiable travelers writing a blog about responsible and ethical travel off the beaten path. They first discovered overlanding while living in East Africa, when they ran into a couple with a Land Rover with a rooftop tent and immediately fell in love with the idea. Emily and Aaron love to get away from the crowds, as most overlanders do, to experience places in peace and serenity.
So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure to have you with us today. So fill us in on any details we may have missed on that intro, along with a little bit about your backgrounds.
Well, I think you guys already hit on the salient details. We write a blog called Two Dusty Travelers at twodustytravelers.com, where it's a responsible travel blog. Emily does all of the wordsmithing and the writing because I can't write my way out of a paper bag. And I am the one that builds the website, does all the coding, and takes the majority of the photos.
Yeah. We have kind of a similar division of labor on the road. Aaron's got the car running and making sure everything's working, and I'm doing social media and planning the trip, etc. But yeah, so he's a teacher and I'm a nurse when we're not out traveling, and we try to write about responsible travel, like you said. So we're big believers that every decision you make when you're traveling, where you stay, what you buy, what kind of tours you take, all has an effect on the destination that you're spending your time in. And it's kind of the same as a leave no trace idea when you're backpacking. We want to leave this place better than we found it.
Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Aaron, what kind of teaching do you do?
I'm a elementary school teacher. I teach a 4th and 5th grade multi-age class.
Oh, that's great. And what kind of nurse, Emily?
I'm a labor and delivery nurse, so I help deliver babies. Yeah, it's fun.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Very good. So what inspired Overland Adventure for you guys?
I mean, I've always been super duper outdoorsy. I was an Eagle Scout. Growing up, I was hiking at least once a month for a weekend. I've just been in the outdoors, especially in Washington State, almost all my life, and I just love it. And, we were in Africa. We were on safari. We saw these dudes driving in their own, Land Rover Defender 90 with a little rooftop tent on top, just doing their own thing. And we were like, I want that.
Yeah, I mean, as much fun as safari was to go on a guided tour, which is a blast, we were like, oh my God, we could do this ourselves and camp in our own campsites. And it would be awesome.
That's great. How long were you guys on safari?
Usually it's about, what?
A week at a time.
Yeah.
But that's always been the dream, is to go back and do it longer and under our own steam. I mean, you can take a super fancy safari and go for 6 months, but it's getting pretty expensive. And
as a nurse and a teacher, we're not very wealthy. So
you got to save up for those.
Yeah.
We do. And we do the budget camping safaris. We've never done a safari lodge or any of that kind of stuff. We've always slept on the ground in a tent.
Yeah, we felt like we were halfway there to overlanding anyway. So then it was just a matter of okay, we got to get our own vehicle and do this ourselves now.
Yeah.
And how long have you been traveling as overlanders?
Domestically, I mean, we've only really been overlanding in the U.S. for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. We kind of, we've done a lot of travel. We've done a lot of pseudo overland travel. I mean, not quite under our own speed, but, you know, a lot of off-roading and a lot of camping and things like that. But we haven't really combined the two until about a year and a half ago in the U.S.
And then totally fell in love.
Yeah.
Cool. So when was that first trip to Africa?
God.
Well, I mean, I started going, I think, it was 2006 was my first trip, so it's quite a while ago. And I was there to volunteer, and just absolutely fell in love. And like the safari was kind of just a weekend trip, and then brought Aaron back with me the next summer when we were dating, and didn't think of it that way at the time, but I think had he hated it, we probably would have broken up because it was just loved it there so much. And then we just caught the bug, and I think we've been back to Africa almost every year since then. And our first time overlanding like ourselves was a couple years ago, and we rented our own Land Rover, and it was disastrous, but a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It was probably quite an experience, though, right?
Yes.
It was that. Yeah.
We learned to maybe not just buy or rent the least expensive vehicle. That's maybe not the way to choose.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the U.S., when you decided overlanding was something you wanted to do more local opposed to those Africa safaris, how long was it before, from the time you decided, hey, this would be something really cool to do here locally, in the time that you actually took your first trip?
I would say a month at the most.
Yeah,
Okay.
we started seeing these rooftop tents that I don't know if they've just recently caught on in America, when people have been doing this the rest of the world, forever. But
Yeah.
it was like they suddenly just were everywhere, and we, they're not cheap. So we were like, well, maybe next summer, and then we were just like, screw it, and bought one, and we were out, out the next weekend.
Yeah, so we were kind of fortunate. I'm a big camper, so I have the majority of the camping gear that we needed already. Sleeping bags, cooking gear, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a matter of sticking a tent on the roof of our car and
Yeah, that changed
piling
everything.
everything else in the back and going.
That makes it a little bit easier. Tell us about the current vehicle that you guys use, and if you have any specific name for it.
Okay, well, we do. It is a 2009 Subaru Forester, actually. Its name very, creatively is Forest.
Perfect.
Yeah, it worked out well. It's been heavily, heavily, heavily modified. One of the things that we kind of we're excited about is it's my daily driver as well. So I wanted something that is reasonably decent on gas mileage, and we don't need a giant rig at all. And it was kind of a project to see if, how far can you modify a Forester and how hard can you push this thing in an overland situation? And so I've lifted it. I've done, upgraded the suspension, upgraded the wheels, upgraded the tires, put in a second battery, put an awning on there, did a whole new rear bumper. Like I've been going crazy on this thing, and it's been a lot of fun.
And it handles that weight okay?
Once I put the overload heavy duty springs in there, yeah. It's got
That's cool.
It's got McPherson struts in the back, so I had to put in 400 pound spring weight springs back there. But
oh, wow. Okay.
it
Any
works.
specific recovery gear that you use or would recommend to our listeners to make sure that they've always got with them?
Yeah. Well, Max Tracks, 100% Max Tracks. They have saved our posterior.
And strangers we've seen.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, we have these.
And strangers we've seen. We only have 2. I'm ruminating getting 4 or getting 2 more just so that we can, become even less unstoppable.
Okay.
More unstoppable.
More unstoppable. Whoops. And the recovery gear, we don't have a winch or anything like that. That's just too much weight on the front of the car. So we have snatch straps, we have a toe strap, have Clovis shackles and all that kind of stuff that you would normally have. But yeah, for the most part, the Max Tracks and airing down has got us out of basically any situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that one thing you value the most, either on or in your vehicle?
Oh, we love our rooftop tent. I'm so obsessed with it.
It's awesome. Which rooftop tent do you guys have?
Well, we started off with the Yakima Skyrise, the 3-person one. And then we realized that, it's not quite what we were looking for.
It had a bit of a ventilation issue. We were camping, we're in Seattle, so it was cold. When we were out camping, we were getting a lot of moisture. Mm-hmm. So we upgraded. So
we hooked up with a company called Free Spirit Recreation out of Bend, Oregon. And they make these amazingly beautiful rooftop tents and trailers and everything else. So we have a Free Spirit Recreation 3-person rooftop tent on top of the Forester.
And the third person is our dog.
The third person is our dog.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It is hands down the most comfortable night's sleep I've had in the wilderness.
Yeah.
In that thing.
I mean, I really do love the outdoors. I just would prefer not to have my tent on my back and then have to set it up every night. So the rooftop tent has just changed everything. I'm like, let's go every weekend because I don't have to fight with tent poles.
It's the way I can get Emily out into the wilderness.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I found that once you've done that for years and years on end, you just kind of want a little more comfort and something a little bit easier.
That's kind of the thing, a tent with a built-in mattress. I'm into that.
Yeah.
And do you guys use an electric mattress, like a heater pad at all?
Mm-hmm.
We do. We have a mattress heater. I'm trying to rework that system right now because it's, just a home, one that goes on a king size bed, and it's an AC, and obviously we have DC batteries. So then we're running it off of our inverter, and then that's a pain because you have to have a pure sine wave inverter, not a normal inverter. And it drains the house battery pretty quickly. So the pad itself runs off DC. So the little control module converts AC to DC for the pad. So I'm basically converting DC to AC to DC again, just to run this mattress pad. So I'm working on trying to bypass the middleman and see what I can do.
And have you looked into the 12-volt versions they made for truckers?
We haven't in too much depth. I don't know if they make one in a king size, to be honest.
Ooh, yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Because our mattress in our tent is essentially a king size.
It just needs to be on my side, really.
I mean, in all honesty,
you'd be fine.
You could get away with that. Yeah.
I'm with you, Emily.
Yeah, I'm always cold.
And I don't get cold, so.
We were in Utah and it was 110 and I was so happy.
But I was dying.
Yeah.
Anything you originally packed that you never used or removed from your overall setup?
Yeah, there definitely is. Most overlanders are going to roll their eyes and shake their heads at us for this. We're not big foodies. We kind of on the road, we just kind of eat to sustain ourselves. So we started off with a full kitchen setup, two burner Coleman stove, big propane tank, refillable propane tank, frying pans, the whole lot. And in all honesty, we never
so rarely
use it.
Cook a whole meal.
Yeah.
We bring it on longer trips, but we so rarely cook a whole meal.
Yeah.
We're usually out adventuring and hiking and, by the time we get to camp, I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to get the stove out and cook this. And plus, being in a Forester, there's only so much horsepower and torque that thing has. So the less weight, the better.
Well, and you've got pretty limited room, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we have drawers back there, and so we can fit everything that we want. But it's more just a product of weight with that car. We don't have the turbocharged version, unfortunately. So it's sluggish at times. So we make do with
especially in the Northwest going up and down the hills, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad in the Northwest, but where it is really bad was in Utah, going up into Moab and up over those passes.
We were pretty
'cause of the
heavily
higher
laden.
elevation.
Yeah.
We were going in second gear over these passes at
Ooh.
40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. It was just
enjoying the view.
yeah, just taking our time being passed by truckers.
Waving at people as they're passing. It's
Yeah.
Exactly. It didn't. It wasn't the best, but we lightened our load. We make you do with a jet boil now, and it seems to work out really well.
I think that's great. We just did an interview with a guy by the name of Marco with the Holland Africa tour.
Oh, cool.
They have 14 people that go on a tour
Oh wow!
through Africa, and they use a one-burner stove setup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you can do it either way. If you're a foodie and you like to cook, well, bring the 6-burner stove and you're good. But if you're just starting out, don't feel like you need to get a big stove of some kind. You can do it with just a jet boil.
Oh, yeah. You see those 80 series Land Cruisers with full-on kitchens that pull out of the back of them.
It's so impressive to look at. Like,
I suppose it's a matter of knowing what your priorities are and then just being creative when you need to be.
Channel your inner MacGyver.
Low maintenance, yeah.
Exactly. So what are your current 2 or 3 top destinations, along with a little detail on why you enjoyed them so much?
Well, we just got back from 3 weeks driving through Idaho, Utah, a little bit into Arizona, and then back through Nevada and California.
And Oregon.
And Oregon, yes. And I mean, everyone I'm sure will say this, but Utah was just crazy. The national parks are gorgeous. There were so many beautiful campsites. We were constantly camping right outside the national parks. It was beautiful. The weather was great. Can't complain.
It was amazing.
So is it as beautiful as everybody says that it is? Like, what makes that? Can you describe for us what makes that so beautiful?
I mean, the rock formations are crazy. I think one of my favorites was that we went to Monument Valley in the Navajo Nation, just into Arizona, I guess Arizona, Utah on the border, and took a tour with a Navajo guide. And it was so fascinating and so beautiful. And we got to know the history and the culture as well as all of the landmarks. And that was one of our favorite spots. And then we just drove just a little bit north of there to Valley of the Gods, which is on public land and looks very much like Monument Valley, these crazy otherworldly rock formations. We just camped right beneath one. We stayed 2 nights, even though we'd only planned one, because it was just so peaceful and beautiful.
Nice.
I mean, it's so different from what we see in the Pacific Northwest. I think people come and visit here and love how green it is, and the mountains and the trees, which is beautiful, but then Utah is just the opposite of that in many ways.
Okay, cool. So Utah, what else?
Oh, man. So we can talk about Africa all day long. There's a specific place in northern Tanzania that we fell in love with. It's called the Ngorongoro Crater. That's Ngorongoro crater. Yes, Swahili is a very interesting language.
It's supposedly named for the sound that the cowbells make, like ngorong gorong gorong gorong, supposedly.
The ringing of the cowbells, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a extinct volcanic caldera that has sunk down, and it's extremely lush. It's got every single African animal you can imagine.
Actually,
there.
It doesn't have giraffes because they can't walk down.
It doesn't have giraffes. That's true, because they can't make it down the hillside. But one of the amazing things about this is it's an elephant graveyard. So all the really old, gigantic elephants from all around the Serengeti and all that, they come here at the end of their days because there's water down there. There's marshes, and the reeds and stuff are softer on their teeth. And so you drive through this crater and you just see these elephants that are like, 2 times bigger than your safari truck. And it's just,
it's gorgeous.
You turn your head the other way and you see lions and cheetahs. You turn your head the other way, zebras and wildebeest everywhere. And it's just like, it's nuts. It's supposedly the highest concentration of predators, I think, in all of Africa, because it's this enclosed area and there's so much prey. We saw a lion take down a buffalo, like right in front of our vehicle. Yeah. It was nuts. We were like, is this happening? And
so you were protected, right? Like you didn't get added to the food chain?
We were in the car.
They're here.
Oh no.
No, we're in a gigantic, it's an old 70 series Land Cruiser that's been modified for safari. So you don't get out of it.
Although it is, with the place where we always camp, you can stay in a fancy lodge, but we love to camp when we're on safari because the animals will walk through your site, which is great when they're herbivores. So in the campsite on the edge of this crater, they have this giant water cistern like for the camp, but the elephants know it's there. And so they walk up the hillside and drink from it in the evenings, and it's just wild. It's
otherworldly. It's amazing. And that's what I was going to say is the Ngorongoro craters, it has its own microclimate because it's up at around 4,500, 5,000 feet. And it's a fully enclosed caldera. So you get the clouds breaking over the crater rim and like falling into the crater. The campsite where we stay is right on the rim. So you see into the crater, you see the sunrise.
It's gorgeous.
On the crater, you have, zebras and wildebeest and stuff walking through your campsite. It's amazing. It's utterly mind-blowing.
Sounds amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's our favorite place
We're
in the
big
world.
Africa ambassadors because I think so many Americans are afraid of it. And we've never had a bad experience in Africa. I guess aside from like having that crappy car, but that was as much our fault as...
Yeah. But it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then I think our last place is, strangely, you wouldn't think of it, but Aruba, the island of Aruba, down in the Caribbean. We fell in love with that.
Okay, now you're talking.
Now you're talking.
I guess it depends on what time of year, because right now it feels like Aruba here.
Yeah. Oh my God. Except it's a little smoky up here.
Yeah.
Just a touch. So Aruba's amazing because a lot of people think of it as a cruise ship location. You go to your cruise ship, you do your little shore excursions, you stay on the beach in the giant hotels right by the dock. You don't really get into the country. But I think it's 60% of the entire island of Aruba is a national park.
No. It's like 25.
20. Why did I get 60
I don't know.
from?
You're opposite.
Okay. I'm opposite. I'm doing my
But it's a
backwards
lot.
math.
It's a very small island, and a lot of it is the national park, which nobody is in.
It's a tiny island, and yeah, a lot of it's so much national park, and you can rent these, Jeep like JKUs, and just drive around the island and explore. And there's so many trails, there's so much beach, there's little abandoned little towns and things like that you can drive through, and it's just gorgeous, and the people there are amazing. We just had so much fun.
Yeah, there's a whole half of the island that you really need a 4-wheel drive to really explore and enjoy, which we fortunately had, and we were super happy we did it.
Yeah.
So paring down on your kitchen setup, is there anything you would currently then change about it?
That's a great question. I don't think so. I mean, I want to upgrade our jet boil. I have one of the very first original jet boils from when I used to work at REI. I got it as a deal, and it's seen better days, and they have better ones now with pots and things like that. And so, other than that, I would love to at some point probably get a fridge. We have a little thermoelectric cooler right now, which is great. Keeps things 40 degrees below the ambient temperature.
Gotta have a cold beer.
Amen.
But ultimately, I think I want to get like a Dometic or ARB or Angle fridge to go in the car, just because they're so much more efficient and they're so much more programmable. But I don't have an extra $1,000 laying around to do that, so it's going to be a while.
I think the fridge is the one thing we hear probably the most on what's your favorite piece of gear. So everybody is really coveted having a refrigerator with them.
And the technology now that you have with these fridges where they use, half an amp hour or something like that. It's insane. You can keep them charged with your 100-watt solar panel all day long.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We'd go hiking in Zion and leave it in the parking lot with the solar panels and come back to cold beer. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
Coming back to cold beer any day is a good day.
Hell yeah.
What is a favorite recipe you guys make on the road?
As you know, we are gourmet connoisseurs.
Yeah.
So
we established that early on.
Yes. I think the thing that we go back to all the time is sharp cheddar cheese, Triscuits, and tuna. To be quite honest,
we do a lot of that. We do a lot of hard-boiled eggs, a lot of granola bars, a lot of oatmeal in the morning, basics,
and copious amounts of beer.
There we go, and we've established that now as well.
I think we now sound like drunk overlanders, which is not.
Well, we're from the Pacific Northwest, so I don't know about you guys, but for me, an IPA is. I always ask, what is your IPA that is the hoppiest?
Oh yeah, okay. I love the day glow that you can get up here, but I think for long trips, especially when we were in Utah, IPA is a little bit heavy for 112 degree heat for me.
Well, true.
So I was drinking Rainier and PBR because it's in cans, it's cheap, and it was readily available everywhere.
Well, there you go. Those are important things too.
Okay,
I
just wanted to start singing that commercial. That gave us.
Yeah. So provisions, how do you plan for purchasing groceries? Now, we know that you don't have a lot of stuff with you, but if you're going to go on that trip, let's say to Utah, and you want to make sure that you can stay out for more than, just a couple days, have you come up with a minimum amount that you always have with you?
Yeah, we definitely have enough, especially if we're out in the boonies somewhere and we know we're not going to be in a town for a few days. We definitely have enough with us at any given time to eat for a few days. I mean, even we did a trip through Eastern Oregon and we were caught unawares in some of these tiny towns. Like, you cannot get a vegetable. There aren't any. There are none. So we were like, oh, I guess we need to not assume that any town we stop in will have anything besides, microwave meals. So
yeah, some
we
of those
definitely
little stores are pretty sparse.
Yeah. So
it's sagebrush and dirt clods.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Reach.
Potatoes and onions.
Yep.
Yeah. But we can get pretty far with canned tuna and oatmeal, and our fridge fits quite a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a 28-liter fridge, but it fits everything that we need. We don't need a lot of meat on the road, so, perishable goods we have. I mean, the most perishable thing we'll have is eggs and cheese, probably.
Yeah, I forget. I'm vegetarian. Aaron's mostly vegetarian, so that kind of takes out some of the complication of, traveling with meat.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's been pretty good. I think also we keep some, Mountain House meals in the spare tire because we don't have a spare tire
for emergencies.
And dehydrated something or other and some cans of soup too, just in case.
Yeah, those are great for backups.
Yeah.
And how do you do your laundry on the road?
We don't do a lot of laundry. We're very smelly people. No, just kidding. We usually plan our trip so that, at least one night in 7 we can stay at a hotel or a lodge or something like that. So we generally are able to, find a place that has laundry facilities. And so we'll just do it all there.
Take a shower, do all the laundry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything we couldn't do on the road, get it done.
Yeah.
So do you have any sort of a shower set up or anything with the Subaru, with Forester?
Forest. With Forest?
With Forest.
We don't. We have, the most that we have is
would you, if you were going to go on a long trip, is that something you might think about?
Yeah, Aaron
doing?
really wants to set one up. Yeah.
I've got some plans in my head on how to do it, but we just haven't yet. I'm thinking some 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC capped on one end with a tap on the other, and you just fill it with water. It's warmed by the sun. You're good to go. Yeah. Exactly. That's the whole thing. I'm really handy. I love learning. And so most of the things that have been built and done, I just figured out and did it. So, I look at the, one that you can buy from the Overland, like Front Runner or something like that. And then I say, how did they make that? And then I do some really cheap, garbagey version of it on my own. Call it good.
Yeah, there you go. So what's been your number one biggest challenge you've had to overcome on the road?
Oh, man. This is a hard one. We haven't really had a lot of challenges.
We alluded to that trip we had in Kenya that went so awry. And we should have known from the moment that the vehicle was delivered to us that we were renting that just was not in good shape, and we probably should have stopped there, but we didn't.
So essentially what happened is we decided we wanted to do a little overland trip camping through some of the parks in eastern Kenya. We were already on the beach, so there was a company who would deliver this vehicle to us. So we rented it was a Land Rover Defender 110 TDI. Generally a great car, not known for its reliability. So we got it. It was reasonably inexpensive. They dropped it off to us. I did a quick look over it. Ran okay. One of the tires had a hole in it, so we had to fix it or get it fixed.
They fixed it, yeah.
They paid for it to get fixed. And then so we started driving. We went through the Tsavo East and Tsavo West National Parks. It's really cool. Saw safari. Went on safari by ourselves under our own steam. It was magical. Until the fuel filter died and the fuel pump died in the middle of Tsavo West National Park.
Ooh.
So we're in the middle of this Kenyan national park There's predators everywhere. There's all sorts of wildlife. We're sitting in this Land Rover that just doesn't go. It's just dead. Like, I have a reasonably good idea of the problem, but I can't fix it when I'm in the middle of the national park. So we ended up finding on our little GPS, we found a safari lodge nearby. So we kind of limped it over there. It died every, 30 seconds. We had to turn it back on, drive a little bit. It died. We kind of limped it over there. We're able to get a hold of the safari company. But the other problem was that there's no cell service in this whole park. So there was a couple of spots where we had cell service. So what we had to do is drive this decrepit Land Rover to the top of this hill. I got on the phone outside of the car because I couldn't get service in the car. So I had to stand outside of the car while Emily stood on top of the car.
He's under the hood with trying to get directions to fix this thing. I'm in the car what could I throw at a lion?
Lisa, I want to make sure that you're prepared to stand on top of the vehicle if it breaks when we're in Africa to fend off lions while I'm trying to fix the vehicle.
Absolutely.
Because Emily is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I would protect you.
I appreciate that. So I was really impressed. The caldera, what was it called? Ngoro?
Yeah, exactly.
In Tanzania?
Yes.
That sounds fascinating. I think we spent, right after that interview, maybe 2 hours watching YouTube videos. And unfortunately, all the videos are super 1980, but gorgeous. That sounds like a great place to go.
Yeah. I mean, literally every single animal you can think of.
But I knew that you were into Aruba as soon as Aaron mentioned Aruba.
Well, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? Beaches and a drink?
I don't think they were after the beaches and drinks.
Well, I am at the moment.
It's awesome. What else did you take away from that episode? That was really fun to talk to them.
Just very energetic. There was no procrastination. There was a month and they just decided to just do it. That's what we've been hearing. Just do it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So when you're passionate about something and then just taking action and doing it, that's pretty impressive. You don't necessarily, especially when you're just making weekend trips or maybe a week or so long trip in your local area, as we've heard from a lot of the people that we've interviewed, that's a great way to get started. It doesn't have to be 6 month, 2 year, or an ongoing trip. Get started, go out and experience some of these amazing places with the vehicle you've got. Get it set up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Looking forward to next week's episode, part 2, as we find out what happens with the lions. Or if the lions showed up. Or if they got the vehicle fixed.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Our interview with the 2 Dusty Travelers is our longer format interview, so we split these into 2 episodes for your downloading pleasure. Don't worry, new episodes are released each Thursday.
In next week's episode, we talk about navigation, pre-trip planning, plus all the finer details of Forest, their Subaru Forester, along with a really good discussion on responsible and ethical travel.
It's a good idea to visit the show notes page at ghteoverland.com/podcasts. Select the 2 Dusty Travelers episode. All the details and helpful links are already there for you.
Send your questions, suggestions, and feedback to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. If you have an Amazon Echo, be sure to tell Alexa, play the GHT Overland Podcast.
Getting the latest episode of GHT Overland Podcast. Here it is from TuneIn.
We'd love it if you'd connect with us on social media at GHT Overland. Be sure to share this episode with your friends who enjoy travel off the beaten path. Overland Travel is all about meeting new friends, seeing the most amazing places on Earth, and of course, new food and new drinks.
Do you have a favorite drink or food recipe for overlanding? We'd love to feature it and you. Send them to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. Before you race off, it would mean the world to us if you rate and review the podcast. Give GHT Overland a little podcast love so we can reach as many Overlanders as possible. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday for part 2 of the GHT Overland Podcast with the 2 Dusty Travelers. Bye!